Hello and welcome again to Conscious TV. I'm Ian McNay and my guest today is Gabor Harsanyi. Hello, Gabor.
Hi.
And Gabor is a master of silence. I think that's a wonderful title. And we're going to find out how he became a master of silence. And he has really quite a story to tell. He's lived quite a life and been through many things. And we're going to get a feel of that and also obviously a feel of where he is these days. So Gabor, you were living in Hungary when there was a 1956 uprising, when the Russian tanks came in. And that must have been very hard for you.
Yes, most of my childhood was spent in an upheaval type of situation. I remember when I was really young, like 3 years old, and there was it was just flowers and plants next to our house. I used to walk and be at total peace. And then after that, a lot of trouble started, all kinds of trouble. The 1956 revolution came, and then my father was part of that uprising. So we were pushed back and forth and back and forth. All kinds of emotions came up, all kinds of emotions. Other type of emotions came. And then, of course, the revolution was beaten down. And so my father was taken in and out of jail for a few years after 1956. So that was really dramatic and emotionally shaking. It was an emotional shake-up.
And how do you remember the peace you found when you were with the plants?
It's not in memory. It's in, I may say, it's not in my mental memory, it's in some kind of an other memory. There was this nurturing, wonderful feeling that I felt at home between the plants and the grass. And very early I was wondering, what am I doing here? Like, why are all these people so weird?
Mm. So like you didn't fit in somehow?
No, I didn't fit in at all.
Okay, and then when you got a little older, you decided you didn't want to stay in Hungary?
Yes. Well, I was, when I was in Hungary, I was dreaming of going to America. And what America represented at the time was freedom. And I didn't know that what I was after is inner freedom. That concept was not even available to me. I guess I just wanted I wanted the chain to be looser, or I wanted the chain to be made out of gold, let's say. So I was really desperately going for freedom, freedom, freedom. As to what it represented to me at the time is being able to travel, have enough money, do what you want kind of thing. So that's when I escaped. I spent 6 months in a refugee camp in Italy.
Were you on your own when you escaped, or were you with some friends?
I was with another person,
yes.
And then basically the two of us attempted to escape.
But it must have been hard to leave your family.
Yes, yes, it was extremely hard. There was something inside me that yanked me out, if I may use that expression.
Yes, yeah.
There was some kind of a power that helped me to make it. It was not much planning, it just happened. So the desire, the vision actually happened of getting out and being free.
So practically you had to go through Yugoslavia.
Yes.
Then you mentioned you were in Italy.
Yes.
So you were walking basically,
yes.
were you?
Yes. Yeah.
And Yugoslavia was then, although it was Tito
communist.
in power, it was
Yeah.
still a communist country,
Yeah.
yes.
Still communist at the time. It was easier to cross to from Yugoslavia to Italy
yes.
than, let's say, from Hungary to Austria.
Yes.
So I decided to take that route. And I escaped from Koper, which is in Yugoslavia, to Italy, that side called Trieste, Trieste. in
And
Italy.
was that dangerous, that
Yes,
journey?
it was very dangerous.
Yeah.
It was very dangerous. They were actually, I mean, they were actually shooting, and dogs were running after us and stuff like that.
Wow.
But very, very dramatic again.
Yes.
Even to remember it is kind of weird, you know.
But you were determined to make it.
I was determined to make it. I was running.
Yeah.
And I walked like, I don't know, 60 kilometers from the border to Trieste. And then I registered with the police. For 2 days I didn't know what to do. So I lived in a telephone booth.
Huh.
And I didn't know what to do. I was 18. Lots of testosterone, but lots of fear also. Didn't know what's going to happen. Are they going to ship me back to Hungary? Are they going to accept me? What's going to happen? So after a couple of days, I went to the police, and they took me into the refugee camp, where I spent 6 months.
And of course, now in Europe, we have so many refugees. This is 2016, we're making this program. We have so many refugees coming into Europe. So in a way, you were experiencing them similar situations to what the refugees are experiencing now.
Yes. And certainly my escape and my troubles are really nothing in comparison to the people that, what's happening to these people right now. I didn't have a child to carry, or I was on my own. I was 18. And also there was very few refugees.
Okay.
So Italy didn't have to deal with 10,000 of them a day. So I was extremely fortunate to escape at that time, and I was a refugee at that time. I was well treated, and they didn't have the current refugee problems that they have now.
Yeah. So then you were able to get from Italy to Canada.
Yes.
And I guess you flew there, and somehow that was financed. And
yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I flew to Canada. I landed, and basically I ran out of the plane, and I said, "Okay, here I come. I'm ambitious. What do I have to do to become successful?" Success meant financial success.
Yes.
I didn't care really what I have to do, within reason. And so reasonably quickly I became very successful financially, because that's really all I wanted. Totally believing that that's what's going to give me that freedom that I was looking for.
Yeah, but how did you do that? Because here you've come, you're a refugee, presumably your English wasn't that good, you get to a foreign country, and pretty quickly you become a multi-millionaire.
Yes,
in your notes,
by the time I was 30, yes.
Yeah, so how do you actually do that? I'm intrigued how you can do that in a foreign country so quickly.
I would call that creative stupidity. I was not educated enough to know what won't work. I quickly learned English. I worked for a British company for a couple of years, Gestetner at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
I was the only immigrant kid, so you can imagine how many jokes they made with me and things like that. I went to university, I took electronics engineering, but I never got a job. I immediately went into real estate. And I bought and sold, and I bought and sold land. I bought and sold land at the time that other people didn't, because the interest rates were so high. So I had no idea why I can't succeed. If there is a secret to that success, it was I didn't know I can't.
You had nothing to lose in a way.
Nothing to lose.
Yeah.
I didn't know what accounting meant, or I used to think net worth was perhaps lady stockings or something like that. And so the initial success was really raw trial and not thinking much about it.
Okay. So you got this success, you're a multi-millionaire. In the notes that you gave me, it was saying you got married to a beautiful woman, you had 3 children.
Yes.
Everything in life seemed wonderful.
Yes. Life was wonderful, great success, lots of money, parties, the best cars, etc., etc. Just just how I imagined success to be. Success meaning freedom. And yes, there was some freedom within reason, but when you make parties and you have thousands of friends, there was really mainly acquaintances. The true friends didn't exist at the time. I didn't know who isn't my friend. And so I used to go home every night, and I used to drink 2 bottles of wine just to calm my nerves and to be able to go to sleep. And something was missing. Even though I was successful, something was really missing. I not yet gotten what I was looking for.
Okay.
Which was freedom, but I have interpreted freedom as financial success.
Yes. So did you have, at that point, did you have a feeling of what might lead to real freedom, or were you just in this position that you realized what you'd done wasn't going to work or wasn't working?
Yeah. Knowing something was missing, didn't quite know what the solution is, but I turned to so-called spirituality. And I have seen a videotape at the time of Ramta.
Okay.
And and as soon as I saw it, I thought, okay, this is exactly what I want to know. It was, again, such a power in me, such a desire to go and learn that. That's what I want to know. That's kind of what's missing. That's the direction I need to go. So I shifted directions. And the universe was very helpful and kind to me in shifting directions. At the same time, I lost all my money, all my friends.
So there was this is the 1990s?
Early 90s, yeah.
Was it 97? I don't remember the year, but the financial crash.
89,
yes.
90.
89, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
And but also you had studied some martial arts, hadn't you? Karate, kung fu,
Yes.
Kickboxing. So you had some idea of kind of how you could at least have energy in the body or generate that kind of spiritual energy through the body, I guess.
I know that now. At the time, I didn't know that. In my martial arts training, they taught me something very basic.
Okay.
That was extremely useful later on. But since I knew it in the martial arts context, I did not know that that's going to be the key ingredient later on.
Yes.
For being in the body or having the inner peace.
Okay.
That came much later.
Okay.
And of course, I did a lot of martial arts because, again, I wanted freedom and I wanted to protect myself. I was a very sensitive soul, quote unquote. So I wanted to protect myself with martial arts, lots of money, better lawyers, etc., etc.
So you saw at that time the martial arts as part of the outer success in a way, or protecting the outer success.
Yeah, outer success and protection.
Yes. Okay. So you mentioned that you were pulled by Ramtha, and I think at that time, just double checking here in my notes, that of course you had to leave your family for that.
Yes.
But wasn't that difficult to leave your family and your children?
The hardest thing to do in my entire life was that. Escaping from Hungary and doing all the other things, even depression was not nearly as hard as that. Something, again, yanked me out and placed me to the west coast of the United States. I started to live in a forest very quietly, and every moment, every day, there was this mental, emotional challenge about my family. I should be with my family. I should be with my family. So that was the hardest decision ever to make.
So you wanted to say no to civilization somehow.
Exactly.
You're living in the. Well, were you actually, when you say living in the forest, you were living in a hut or something. You weren't actually living in the open in the forest, were you?
No. Actually built a small log cabin out of the trees that was there, and I was totally self-sufficient with my own electricity and had my own garden and had food storage, stuff like that. So I turned from so-called the civilization to to a whole different direction. At least that's what I thought.
But you were very resourceful to do that on your own, to build your own place in the forest and survive,
I had lots of help. In a community like that, there's lots of help available.
Okay.
I met the most interesting, wonderful people who were very different, who were very supportive to have that kind of lifestyle.
So, what did you feel was changing in you at that time?
In retrospect, what was changing is I substituted one ego need, money, to another ego need. I am now spiritual. I said goodbye to civilization, and I am now a better person, slightly better than you, because I am now spiritual and I'm going in this direction. So I didn't know that at the time, but in retrospect, that's really what it was. Now I'm collecting data and information instead of collecting data about how to make more money. I was collecting information with respect to spirituality, different type of meditation, different type of knowledge, the unseen, the chakras, and on and on and on.
So, in a way, something at your core wasn't actually changing or wasn't challenged at that point.
What has shifted is a different type of ego developed. I still had the male ego, and I had all those wonderful experiences with Ramta, all those meditations and breathing exercises that made you feel so good. So I was absolutely sure that I'm on the right track now. Before, I used to feel good about my success. Oh, I got this done. Now I felt, oh, when is the next seminar? When is the next retreat? So for a while it felt so good, powerful. What I didn't know is that I was still in the duality swing.
Okay.
So something felt so good, but then it goes away. Again, something felt so good. Oh, this must be the right track because I now have a Kundalini experience. I am crying and laughing at the same time. That must be it. The amazing euphoria that followed some of the exercises were amazing for days. And so I was absolutely sure that that's it, that's the right track. There's no right or wrong track. I'm just saying that path is not the way to awakening, because you're still in the duality swing.
But at the time, you felt, because you had the highs, as you said, you were on the right path. So how did the questioning start to take effect? How did you start to realize that you probably or possibly weren't on the right path?
I didn't question it, and I didn't know that I was on the right path or on the wrong path. I had an experience of business, something was missing. I had an experience of spirituality, which I know it means different things to different people. And I was not aware that there is anything else. There is this direction and there is that direction, and something was definitely missing. I started to have depression. I started to be interested in other things now, other teachers, other meditation techniques. Also, I started to build a condominium building with a friend in Puerto Vallarta in Mexico. So I got involved with a construction project in Mexico. If you're unprepared, I don't recommend it to anyone. So things started to change. I made moves again, not knowing where I'm going or what. Something was still missing.
So you mentioned depression. What form did the depression take?
It lasted about 12 years altogether. In the
12
meantime,
years?
12 years.
It's a long
yeah.
time, yeah.
The depression is, I had to function while I was depressed. Hardly anyone ever noticed. But it was a feeling of, I get up in the morning and I don't want to live. Sometimes I bicycle to the beach, the most beautiful area, one of the most beautiful areas of the world. I should be happy, right? Well, it's just like, perhaps I should drive under the bus. Perhaps, I mean, all those weird thoughts. So the questioning of my own existence came into effect with the depression. Looking at it from my eyes now, the existential shake-up was necessary for me to even consider awakening. It's an existential shake-up, and depression is a very good existential shake-up. You don't want to exist. So now we're getting close to existence. So I think that's how the universe guided me to the existential question.
But did you see a way out of the depression at the time?
No. I thought that that's just the way it is. I tried to get help here and there and everywhere. It helped very temporarily. It was helpful. One of the things I did is I was fortunate enough to spend 3.5 months with an Indian tribe in the Amazon in Ecuador. I took a trip to Ecuador, and someone introduced me to a shaman of a tribe. And although he didn't speak Spanish or English, but he gave me permission to stay with them. By that time I was doing construction in Mexico. I had depression. So I was under a lot of stress plus depression. Something was pulling me there, to be there. My first impression was amazing, that I woke up first morning scratching like crazy because of the bugs, and I was not used to the environment. That the people were just sitting there, just sitting. I was the only one with all my spiritual experience and knowledge that was pretending to be sitting. I was sitting, but inside my mind was going. When am I going to learn something? Where is this going? When am I going to be initiated? Ooh. So I can tell my friend, ooh, I was initiated. And after a week or so, the shaman took pity on me and made me some ayahuasca tea. And I took that twice a week for 3 weeks. And that helped me calm down, totally. I still couldn't be just, I still couldn't just be like the rest of them, just sit. I still had anticipation. They were actually sitting with no anticipation. No expectation, nothing. I still had some expectation of the future. I wonder what's next. I wonder what knowledge am I going to be, somebody's going to impart to me. And so that was, finally I was able to relax and stay with them and be there. I could actually be there rather than think of something else. And the major realization for me was that in spite of all my knowledge about spirituality and many meditation techniques, many things, I didn't know anything. They knew something that I didn't. I didn't know what it was or how it was. I thought it was some kind of a coincidence. But that left a major question in my heart called, okay, I tried this, I tried that. There is these people who know nothing and I know everything, and how come they can just sit and I can't?
So the bottom line was they were happy and you weren't happy, basically.
We can call it that way.
Yeah.
Just they were able to just be.
Yeah.
In the meantime, of course, I'm having my existential shake-up with the depression.
Yeah.
So knowing that I don't know was very helpful. I was I was like giving up on life, basically. The depression lasted so long. It took a toll on my body and my relationship and everything. Mm. And one day I was walking on the beach, just sit down, and I remember the martial arts tactic that I learned when I was in my 20s. When I received the so-called black belt, my teacher taught me how to be in the body, because if we were demonstrating things to the public, for example, you can hold your arm out, and if you're inside the arm, they will not be able to bend your arm, or it will be very hard. There is those martial arts demonstrations that we were doing. And so I remembered how to do that. And it was easy because I learned how to do it then, so I said, okay, let me try that. Jesus also said, the kingdom of God is within, and seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all else shall be added unto you. Okay. I've tried all those things, so why not look inside, really? I actually know how, so okay. No, and the mind says, no, hold on, you gotta try that too, because that's more exciting. No, I'm gonna try this going inside. No, you must try first. Let's go back to Ramta and learn such and such, go to that level. And when you go that level, then you try. No, okay. Jesus said that, it's within, so let's go within.
The kingdom of God is within.
Yeah, within. So I didn't know what the hell is within. What's within? Within what? And so, in my desperation and my existential shake-up, in the midst of existential shake-up, being close to existence, I go look inside. And looking inside is not a visionary thing where you say, okay, I'm imagining looking inside. It's a feeling, it's a sensing of the inner body's nurturing. There's a nurturing intelligence feeling within the body that runs the body. And we have access to that. So, oops, I look inside. And all of a sudden, the waves from the ocean were different. Mainly in what I was hearing. The hearing shifted. And I could hear the waves differently. So my ego right away says, oh, look at that, look at look at how it works. Calm down, it's okay, let's just look inside. It wasn't difficult to stay because I had such an existential shakeup that for me it wasn't difficult to just stay there peacefully. At that instant, I realized what it means to be inside. It was instant, it wasn't gradual. Amazing amount of, I don't know what to call it, euphoria, pleasure of, oh, okay, now I know what it means to be inside. All along it was right in front of me. I even knew how to do it. It was right in front of me. It's simple, but no, I don't want to do this, I want to do that. That's more exciting.
But that we sometimes have to exhaust what's on the outside, and that's just the way it is, isn't it?
Exactly. It was all exhausted. All these other trials went bankrupt in it didn't work.
But the whole of society is building this up for us, and that's kind of our level of what we aim for. It takes a very courageous being or a desperate being to really say this is all not going to work.
Yeah.
I have to come back here. It's very rare, actually.
Right. It was a very fortunate, unfortunate thing. The desperation were so big, so high, my existential shakeup, that one little look, one little touch, I call it a touch, was enough to have this instant of realization of simplicity that's available to me and to everyone else.
And what happened to the depression when you did that?
Good question. The depression that I felt at that time was instantly gone. It was an instant shift. It was instantly gone. But it has tried to come back. It has taken a mental form. It had its memory now after 12 years. Look at that, this is how you are, da-da-da-da. So it, like every other mental memory form, tried to come back, tried to come back, tried to come back. But now I was very aware of the simplicity of the one touch paying attention. Just one small paying attention, and that small effort of paying attention takes care of 100 depression. Instantly you step out of the duality swing and it's no longer in my reality. So it has tried to come back and has actually trained me to go deeper and deeper and deeper into present, because occasionally try to come back really hard, and when something really hard happens in our life, in duality, we just have to go in, but just a little deeper. It's just a little deeper.
So depression actually was a catalyst for you to go even deeper inside yourself.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
It served
so
as
there was a gift there somehow.
It was a huge gift to me, yeah. Initially, it has made me try to look inside, and secondarily, when I tried to come back, it helped me to go deeper and deeper and deeper. Realizing the same thing deeper and deeper and deeper. There is no deeper, but it's just an expression.
No, I understand that, yes, yeah. And I guess there's so many things in so many areas of life, and I can include myself in this, maybe, that something goes, what you think is wrong or is difficult, a challenge, if you like, and of course, that in a way is as I said, the catalyst. That's the thing that is unsettling, and without that, you wouldn't explore.
That's
and
right.
You wouldn't end up going deeper inside, because
Exactly.
there wouldn't be, the motivation wouldn't be there.
Exactly.
And people that have fairly normal, balanced lives often don't find this pearl that you found.
Well, what's really weird, I don't know what word to use, that the opportunities are available to everyone consistently, all throughout our lives. One doesn't have to be depressed to get there. That was my path. It's just your personal path is your personal path. The realization is instant, and the opportunities are consistently there for us to have this self-realization, because life brings us situations, and the immediate response of the untrained mind, let's call it that way, is to go and fix this, whatever this is. Situation comes, I go fix it. Which is a normal way to attend a problem. The other way to do it, if someone chooses, is different. This something came into my reality. The universe, God, who is a lot smarter than me, put this in front of me. So why don't I just embrace this and be with it? It'll actually help me embody that situation. Not embody, in-body, I-N, in-body. When that, whatever it is in my body, now it's so close to me that I can shift, I have the ability to shift it. So this something which came into my reality became a catalyst for me, and in turn, almost always, the situation also shifts. So a human situation could be used that way. And that way life, whatever life brings us, is a consistent seminar, custom-made seminar for us, because life knows a lot better what sort of situation do I need to deal with.
How did this realization, how did it change how you saw reality?
It's the way I used to see reality is the way we all see reality. Now I see the exact same reality as is, except from a different context. The mind, which has been running, our mind has not been given the proper nurturing and the proper context within which it can operate properly.
So when you say the mind hasn't been given the proper nurturing, explain that more, what you mean by that.
Very hard. We call it the mind, but our attention have been hijacked by institutional fear and all kinds of things.
And the speed of society,
Yeah,
everything.
speed. Think of this, think of
Yeah,
that,
exactly.
think of that,
Yeah,
think of
yeah.
that. And no, don't pay attention here. It's over there, it's over there. I tell you exactly what to fear today.
Well, the television does
yeah,
that in the
television,
morning. Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah.
So we are inundated with all that information.
Yes.
Our mind, our ability to function properly is totally hijacked. Even the synchronization between vision and sound has been hijacked. They tell us what sound goes with what vision. So all this God-given ability have been totally hijacked. So simple touching, simply a simple inner attention gets my mind and your mind, everyone's mind, to get aligned with the body. The body was here and the mind was here. Now it just simply lines up with the body. Why is it good to line up with the body? Well, the body already has the innate intelligence. It's like a mini universe, really. It's a smaller fractal of the large universe out there. So why not use that intelligence? In many spiritual circles, the body is a no-no. Oh no, I'm not the body. I got to do astral traveling and I got to step out somehow. And I know I'm not this, I'm all that. It's a half-true statement. Yes, it's true, but there is the door. The door. You knock on the door by paying attention, using the words of Jesus. Knock on the door, paying attention. The door opens, and instantly I feel one with everyone. Now, back to your original question, how did it affect my outlook on life, I think you were asking? Now the mind can function properly. Instead of functioning in a hijacked fashion.
What does that mean, the mind can function properly?
It means that my capability of paying attention and all the information that I have learned so far, all the information that I made a template of in life, which is important, how to build a bridge, how to play tennis, how to do this, how to do that, how to... all the education I've had created this a bunch of information and put them together in a template or in a format or in a thought stream. Problem is, if the mind is hijacked, it's just going to go like a loose cannon. Bang, bang, oh, how about this, how about this, how about that, how about that. So all that wonderful information is just about useless if the mind runs like an idiot.
Okay.
In a lunatic asylum.
Yeah.
You know. However, if it's placed on its foundation where it's supposed to be, and it is also nurtured naturally the way it should be, now the mind is at home. First it rebels because it's used to operating by itself. No. First it rebels, but then in time it settles into this new foundation. And now the proper use of mind is that I can think of whatever I want to think of. It's like walking into a library, calm, and I can pick out any book. Before that, I walked into that same library and the books were attacking.
Yeah, so the mind becomes the mind becomes your servant rather than your master somehow.
Yeah, we can call it that way.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. And the mind is happy doing that because it wasn't quite happy being hijacked, except it's got used to it.
You talk about, I just wanted to mention something. I've got these notes from that you gave me, or came from your wife's book. Your final and actual realizations appear on their own, rather as subtle and uneventful happening beyond the senses and very difficult to describe. So I was interested when you say the final and actual realizations appear on their own.
Now, of course, we're into an area where we don't have the words, and so we're attempting to use words. How I handle it is usually I use a metaphor and then we drop it, and then I use an explanation and we drop it. But initially, for everyone, it's instant, because we are going beyond time. We cannot accumulate things and go in time and hope to be eventually beyond time. So it's instant. So that's, if we want to call it final, we can. It's nothing is really final. It's instant. So when the mind gets incorporated, what's the word? When the mind gets used to operating in this new context, in this environment, there is
retrained in a way.
Retrained.
Yeah.
When the mind gets retrained, it starts with the original instant realization. The mind starts to get retrained, and there is little final, refined realizations in between. The initial excitement, the initial honeymoon is kind of starts to be over. Oh my God, look at that. So refinement starts happening. The practical end of it starts to have, oh, okay, I can incorporate that too in this piece. Oh, that too I can incorporate in that piece. And that too I can incorporate into that piece. So those are the final touches that are not describable until there's nothing final, but because it keeps on happening, that there is a total relaxation into this possibility, into this context, knowing that the mind works just fine. Nothing that I have ever learned is lost. I don't have any ability that I have lost, except when I'm walking, when I'm doing anything, the mind is not talking to me. Mm. There's no conflict within me.
Mm. That's a wonderful thing. You say there's no conflict in you.
Right.
And so many of us,
right,
the human world, we have, with us the outer conflict, but we have our inner conflict, which of course contributes to the outer conflict.
That's why we live in the world, that's why the reason the world the way it is. I call it the open air lunatic asylum.
Yeah.
It's,
Anyway, we've got about 10 minutes left, so I want to really use that time as effective as we can to find out more about your work and how I know you do seminars and I think you do private sessions. So you free people from thought addiction. This is just some notes I made. You protect somebody from their mind, or you help them to protect themselves from their mind, or learn how to do that. And they help people go from a habitual thinking state to a non-thinking state, and they speak and act from a being state instead.
Right.
So I know you've covered it a little bit, but just talk more about, on a practical level, how that can manifest in people, that they go from this thinking of a habitual thinking to a non-thinking state.
The first thing I do, when I say I do, it's figure of speech, is the first few prerequisites to awakening is that a person understands that the way they have used their mind before in a cumulative state, accumulating information, accumulating something to get somewhere, the way we use the mind so far, it's perfectly correct to use the mind that way to, say, build a bridge or something like that. Once they understand that a totally different approach has to be accepted and necessary even to try, even to actually go through this, what I call the eye of the needle. So once a person has a sufficient understanding that, okay, I know I don't know how this works, but I will not be able to understand it, and if I understand it, I will misunderstand it. All the truths that I have known to be true are maybe half-truth, maybe 100% truth, but I cannot base my listening entirely upon those assumptions that I have assumed in the past. There's like a million assumptions out there about spirituality, which is somehow connected to awakening. So the first prerequisite is to understand that that kind of cumulative approach and assumptions are not going to work. Once that's understood, then, and at the same time, we start like the personal sessions or even in group, where a very simple thing happens. I'm just sitting there, being, and people are looking inside. People are guided to look inside. All you have to do is touch for a second, no expectation. So if I say, you're looking at me, but be aware of your hand. Okay, that's it, no expectation. And then look at me, be aware of your butt touching the chair. And then I keep on talking. And then all of a sudden the person gets how simple this is. That this simplicity, when the mind slows down and eventually stops, is the it. What I mean by it is that is the beginning of awakening. Now we can begin the awakening process. My whole explanation prior to that was coming to this simple moment so that you can please accept this simplicity, right? The Indians in the Amazon didn't need to unlearn all these things. They just were sitting there, right? So then comes the next problem, the next challenge for me is that everyone misunderstands that they think that this nice feeling is like meditation. Oh, it's just like a meditation technique. I know I did this before, So the mind from memory says, okay, this is this and that meditation technique, and starts comparing immediately. So we are there. Nothing else is needed. If you can stay there, I'm not even needed. But they can't stay there because the mind will start coming at it. Oh, it's just like meditation. No, it's not meditation. Meditation has a beginning and an end. This is a feeling, a sensing of existence. This is a sensing of your being. When your being recognizes its own being, you will not need me, and I don't want to call this meditation simply because this is not in time. As soon as we enter this being state, if I can call it a state, it's no longer in time. That expression we can also take further, but we don't want to at this point because it's really absolute time, but that's another discussion. Now if we're staying here, the mind starts relearning to operate that, oh, there is this being, there is this context. There is this nurturing foundation that I can use. But the mind will come up with all kinds of comparisons. And I've experienced this hundreds of times from my students consistently. The mind has an amazing ability to come up, to try to complicate this, to try to compare it, put it away in their memory so it can access it later. And because this feeling right now, this sensation right now, is not going to be the same 5 minutes from now. And we can't recall it.
Yeah.
So what I do, I do is nothing. The more nothing I do, the better. I'm really providing the space. I just sit there, within which, if they wish, they can stay longer and longer and longer
And that,
longer.
as you say, is the beginning of an awakening.
Exactly, that's the beginning. So unless someone starts looking inside, their awakening has not started yet.
Okay, I want to ask you one more thing before we finish. What's it like for you being a master of silence?
Well, I wish I didn't have to be called anything. To operate in this dimension, we have to be called as something.
Yes.
And so, a friend of mine called me in Hungarian Csendmester, which means master of silence, and it kind of stuck. To operate as such, my life is not any different than anybody else's. My life is exactly the same. I no longer get excited about the profitable idea as much as before, or my response to things are very different, but I see the world as is. I don't see things and people and situations through the old bias I used to see through. And the normal mind looks at the world and says, okay, what filter do I bring in to look through? Ian McNay, British, friendly, nice guy. You know, I mean, there is a filter of looking. While now, I just look at the way it is. It's not like my world is pink.
The way it is.
The way it is. If I see anger, it's anger. It's not like I don't see anger. It's not like I see the world in pink glasses at all.
Yeah.
Just the way it is. But coming from this nurturing foundation, looking out from this nurtured foundation, even the so-called ugliness, quote unquote, is ugly, still ugly, misbehavior is still misbehavior, but there's no judgment or reaction at all.
Yeah.
There's not even no judgment. It's just love. And if I happen to be close to reaction to something, I just go just a little bit deeper.
And that's the key, isn't it? And I
Yeah.
think that's where you've been going right from the start, a little bit deeper in your journey. And
Right.
And I guess the journey is ongoing.
Yes, it's ongoing this way.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's a great place to finish, Steve. Ongoing journey this way.
This way, yes.
Yeah. I'm going to actually show Nurit's book, your wife's book, because it has a lot about your stories.
Yes.
So this book, The Blind Leading the Blonde on the Road to Freedom, Confessions of a Recovering Spiritual Junkie, is written by Nurit Owen, who I'm actually interviewing next. But the reason I'm showing it now is that it also has Gabor's story in there and some conversations between Nurit and Gabor. So you might like to find this book if you were pulled towards Gabor's journey and intrigued by what he had to say. Thank you very much, Gabor, for coming along to Conscious TV, coming all the way from Budapest especially. That's very much appreciated. And thank you everyone out there for watching Conscious TV, and I hope we see you again soon. Goodbye.
Hi, this is Gabor, Gabor Harsanyi. I'm doing a short guided meditation for Conscious TV. And my attempt is to guide you and guide you to stay in the present moment, actually. We usually call something like this meditation, but I don't like to call it meditation. I would call it rather the reproportioning of attention. Normally our attention goes out and stays out. And that's how we live our life. That's the expectations of others, society, etc. By reproportioning our attention, we keep some of the attention outside and some inside. There is a consistent, if there is a consistent attention inside, and the attention is reproportioned from inner and outer, then the mind tends to will and will have a tendency to line up with the body. And when the mind and the body is in alignment, then you're in the present moment. This present moment is not a small piece of time stolen away from time. It's out of duality. This is something that's your birthright. That's something very natural to every person. And it's beyond time. Or I could also say it's in absolute time. If you're just sitting comfortably somewhere, just keep looking at me. And just relax, nothing major will happen, no expectation. And just for a moment, feel the chair under your butt. Keep looking at me and feel the chair. Keep looking at me and feel your foot. What I mean by feeling your foot is that you are aware that your foot is there. You don't have to look down to see if it's there. You're feeling your foot and you're feeling the vitality in it. You make it shine. For those of you who would be more comfortable in closing your eyes, please do so. Keep looking at me if your eyes is open. And feel your hands. Be aware of your hands. Feel the vitality. Feel it shine. Feel the intensity, the aliveness in your hand. And we'll do the same thing with your chest now. Be aware of your chest, focus on your chest. Make it shine. Every breath you take will increase the intensity of this shine, will increase the aliveness of your body hundreds and hundredfolds. Every breath you take will increase the intensity. Feel your shoulders. Be aware of them. Feel the vitality, make it shine. Feel your thighs. Feel your knees. Feel the vitality, make it shine. Feel your stomach, make it shine. Every breath you take connects your so-called inner body and increases the intensity of this inner focus, the intensity of this inner aliveness. If your eyes are closed, slowly open your eyes, but before opening your eyes, make a decision that you're going to keep some of that attention within. Of course, if you didn't close your eyes, then you didn't close your eyes. So we are keeping some of the attention within. This is what we mean by the kingdom of God is within. This is the simplicity of it. This is your birthright. This is the beginning of awakening, beginning of spiritual learning. We are now beyond time, or I could say in absolute time. Keep looking and feeling inside. There's no expectations. We're not expecting anything to happen. One very important thing, this is not a meditation. Your mind will tend to tell you this is the same as a meditation. It's always now, it's always now, it's always now. A meditation is in time, has a beginning and an end. This is the reproportioning of your attention. I don't know what to call it. I will probably call it reproportioning, if I must call it something. The less I try to call it something, the better. Just be with me. This is the so-called knocking on the door that Jesus talks about. And if your hearing has shifted a little bit, then the door is opening. This is the you that's already within you. I didn't invent this. I didn't do anything to you. I'm simply sitting here looking at you. What's in me is in you. And in every living thing. From this peaceful, nurturing perspective, it's not possible to have any harmful thoughts towards anyone or anything. Just keep being with me. No expectation. Remember to keep some of your attention inside. Any body part will do. For most people, the awareness of your hands from inside is the simplest. But you might find that for you it's the foot or the chest. It doesn't really matter. One touch, just one touch within is worth thousands of hours of doing something without. It almost seems like you're willing to open the door to God, paying attention this way. So now God, the universe, can be with you. Now your mind and my mind can operate from a different context. This is a contextual shift. You will not lose your memory. You will not use your ability. You're not going to be irresponsible. It's a perfectly functional space. Stay here with me. What I'm saying is not as important as your inner attention. You have to, if you want, focus within. No one can do it for you. But it's easy. If you look within, you try to go within, it's very, very easy. Why should your birthright be hard? Or why should your birthright take 20, 30, 40 years to deserve by accumulating good deeds? It's yours now. You can operate from this space. It's very functional. This is your being. This is how we were when we were children. It's not complex. It's not mine. It's not yours. By doing this, you're not going to be a superior person. Neither an inferior one, of course. Life is going to be so much easier. Challenges will come, but you will know how to approach them. Do this simple thing of reproportioning as frequently as you can during the day while you're doing anything else. Standing in line in the store is a great way to practice. Washing dishes, washing your car, walking, talking. Try this as a listening skill. Someone has a tendency to talk too much, just focus within and just be. And you will see magic happening in your relationships. It's yours. You can only have it now. You can't have this in the future. Now. And now. Put this on, put this tape on as frequently as possible. Practice it, and most importantly, practice it in your everyday life. Don't allocate some time to practice. Whenever you think of it, whenever it gets to you, now, 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 reproportion, reproportion, reproportion. I wish for you to be able to maintain this natural state that I cannot call a state. With a little bit of attention and intention, you will be able to maintain this. God bless you, and all the love to you and to yours.
Hello and welcome to Conscious TV. I'm Ian McNay, and today we have a small panel with two people. We're going to talk about freeing oneself from thought addiction, which has both been important in their own journey. It's something they both in their own way teach and practice. And I just thought it would be interesting for Conscious TV to put them both together and see what happens basically. So Gabor Harsanyi and Martin Wilson. And let's start briefly by just talking about how you got to where you are. And it's obviously, we've interviewed you both on Conscious TV, so if people want to find the full stories, you need to either look on Conscious TV itself or YouTube and track them down. But Gabor, for you, there's a big realization when you were in Ecuador and you were staying with a fairly primitive tribe of Indians. Just explain what happened there.
Yeah. I have, my motivation to go there was to study more of spirituality, more something. Perhaps be initiated by a shaman, or so I can call myself initiated or something. It felt right to be there. It was not comfortable physically because I was not used to the environment, mosquitoes, the bugs, etc. But for me, one of the biggest self-realization point came about because I was there. Specifically, that I used to wake up in the morning and with full of anticipation. I'm going to learn something more. Perhaps the shaman will do something today, etc. Everyone else was just they were just sitting calmly and quietly, and I was the only one who were busy inside, thinking, anticipating. I wonder what is going to happen today. And so I was able to calm down after 6 portions of ayahuasca that they made for me.
And that's quite a powerful herb, isn't it?
It's very powerful. It's not something that you can get hooked on simply because the first 40 minutes of it is horrible. I mean, you're throwing up, you're nausea and on and on and on. But something happened within me that I was able to actually be with them, and I stayed with them for quite a while. However, the biggest realization for me was that in spite of all my acquired, accumulated spiritual knowledge, which I had lots at the time, I wasn't able to just be. Still at that time didn't know what the solution is or where it is or how. I just knew that whatever I have accumulated so far, it's not where it is. So that was my main learning from that experience.
And then you went on, I think it was Mexico, to the beach,
right,
where you realized that, just talk about how you discovered going in was so important with the body.
At that time, many things were going on at the same time, one of which was I had suicidal depression.
Yeah, for 12 years, which is a long time.
For 12 years, really, ongoingly, including the time when I was with the Indians, partially. So the bad news was that all the time I was thinking about how am I going to kill myself. I woke up in the morning and I did not want to exist. In retrospect, I realized the benefit of that depression, that when you wake up every morning questioning your own existence, you're much closer to the existential shift that may or may not take place. So in my total desperation, one day I was just sitting on the beach, and I remembered a very simple technique that I learned in my 20s when I was in martial arts. That how to look inside, and that technique was used by martial artists to demonstrate special powers, quote unquote, stuff like that. Stuff like the master is sitting and the people try to move him and they can't, or a strong man try to bend someone's arm and they can't because you're present in your body, stuff like that. And prior to that, so that tactic came back to me on the beach. And in my absolute desperation, I finally attempted to look inside. It was a very significant event simply because prior to that, I was looking and looking and looking and looking, acquiring, accumulating more, perhaps the next meditation, perhaps the next book, perhaps the next therapy, perhaps the next something, perhaps staying with the Indians, perhaps another initiation, and on and on and on. So I thought, okay, my Hapkido master showed me how to look inside, which was quite easy, especially when you're in your 20s. And by the way, another master called Jesus said that the kingdom of God is within. So how about if that within is the same as that within? Why not? Never considered it. And I simply looked inside because by that time I was so beaten up that there was no other way there was no other path all my other paths, looking outside, were already bankrupt. Looked inside, and almost instantly, the waves of the ocean as they were coming in, it's a big bay in the ocean, started to sense, I sensed them differently, I heard them differently, I saw them differently. And my first thought was, oops, is it that simple? That technique was in front of me all through these years. I never attempted it, even though it's clearly in the Bible that the kingdom of God is within. Why not try? I did not try until, in my reality, all the other paths out there went bankrupt.
It was the ultimate desperation.
Ultimate, absolute
Last
desperation.
call.
Yeah. Last call, I look inside,
Yeah.
and what I'm trying to say to the listeners is that you do not have to wait that long for your ultimate desperation.
Yes.
It's,
Okay. Fine, thank you. So Martin, with you practice many different methods, an experiment really, because you wanted to find out whether your wife Maria, what she was doing was real or not.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you stumbled across something or came across something that helped you to stop uncontrolled thoughts or control uncontrolled thoughts.
Yeah.
So just tell us a little bit about the method, and then how that affected things for you and how that progressed.
Yeah, well, after looking at many different methods that didn't work for me, I came across one that, I'll be honest, I laughed at when I saw it. And it was, and I can't even tell you where it came from, but it was called the fish tank technique, which was, and if it feels easier, you can close your eyes to do it, but this is a technique where you picture yourself in a room standing in front of a fish tank. So any uncontrolled thoughts that come in, you would take them out, drop them into the fish tank, and just observe. So you don't actually try and make sense of the thoughts that are going in. You don't try and destroy them or get rid of them. You just put them in and observe. And then while you're observing, you just ask yourself the question, what will my next thought be? And it's amazing how you become aware. As soon as you're aware of your thoughts, they stop. They dissolve on their own. They go away. And of course, I laughed at this technique. I found it hilarious that anyone would actually practice this, until I tried it and found some silence. And when I found that silence, you've got to bear in mind that I was doing this to try and disprove what my wife had been telling me. I wanted to disprove that any of this stuff was real. So of course, when I got some evidence that it was real, I was quite knocked back. I didn't really want to hear that. So I had to try it again and again and again. And those periods of silence just got longer and longer and longer until I found the very thing that I was trying to disprove. So.
And you kept with it over a long period of time.
Many months, yeah.
Many months,
Yeah.
and then in the end you felt you had control over your thoughts insofar as you weren't getting the uncontrolled negative thoughts.
Yeah. And I think the way I'd explain that, I know when people say that they meditate, they might have a really busy 9-to-5 job, they might have children at home, and they do all those things, and then they meditate for half an hour a week and expect that to counteract all of their other problems. And from my own experience, I think mindfulness is a habit. I think it's a habit that you need to replace with uncontrolled thoughts. You need to get rid of the uncontrolled thoughts and bring mindfulness in. It's a changing of habits. And of course, meditating for half an hour a day with such a busy life is not going to do that. It's not a change of habit. That's a hobby.
Okay, so let's look at where you kind of agree and maybe even disagree on this. But with you, Gabor, when you, as you describe, you started to found your own kingdom of God within, and that managed to slow your thought process down, didn't it?
Yes.
So just talk more about how that developed after that.
Yeah, I find it by paying attention within, all of a sudden the hearing shifts and the mind slows down. And if I stay here long enough, it anchors me into this now. The kind of now that is not not stolen away from time. It's not a small portion stolen from time. It's beyond that. And I find that to be a perfectly natural state. And what I found is that people who get there eventually will have to go there anyway to anchor it. You know, like we all arrive and then we throw down anchors in the harbor, you know. And so that was my way of going there. What I find is that Martin's presence is exactly the same. I mean, we met yesterday and there's an instant recognition.
Yeah.
However we got there, there is that instant recognition of just being. And by the way, I'm totally amazed at the contrarian approach that you have taken in trading the stock market or even many markets. There's a type of people who call the contrarians.
Yeah.
People who go this way, you go that way. But I have never heard of an approach, the contrarian approach in spiritual awakening. And you went to disprove their existence, right?
Yeah.
So instead of going out to learn more, you went out to disprove more.
Yeah.
Almost in a sense, like instead of covering up, you try to uncover. Amazing. I've never met anyone who got there that way, and I'm delighted.
Well, I think the way I sort of talk about that is I find that the more you want and need enlightenment or awareness or mindfulness, I think the more you want and need, the further away it gets. I think it becomes an obsession and you push it away. And of course, I was going completely the opposite direction and it crept up on me. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I think I can sort of explain it that way. And it fascinates me that obviously my first step was to quieten the mind before I moved into the heart centre, whereas you sort of came into the heart centre to quieten the mind.
Yeah.
So so we just sort of swapped steps very slightly there. But as you said yesterday when we met, there was that instant recognition of, wow, there's someone that's experienced the same things in the same way.
Yeah.
You know, so
the being recognizes another being, always, in everyone. It's more difficult to recognize the being with someone who is consistently covering it up. It's still there, but when someone is not covering it up, it's very simple.
Yeah.
And eventually, I believe that all societies and all peoples will end up in this common denominator, in this kind of space, where the internal conflict is gone and therefore the outer conflict will be gone, and we will be able to attend our jobs and our politics and running the countries from this perspective, which is so simple and so attainable, actually.
But you see, the point to make is, and I understand what you're saying, is if you look too much out there for your freedom or self-realization, whatever we call it, then that's probably going to fail. But on the other hand, you found something by default almost, but once you found it work, you committed and you stuck with it.
Yeah.
Month after month after month.
Yeah.
And you were saying you were doing it virtually all your working day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Gabor, with you, when you found that the key was within and the key was in the body, you described how you would walk up and down the beach and you'd just feel your feet on the sand, and the sound of the wind and the waves sounded different, and you stayed with that insofar as that you because of your depression, there was the incentive. You'd had this very bad depression for 12 years. You stayed with what you'd found in terms of a way of freeing yourself from the depression and finding something ultimately much bigger than you, which you came to realize. So there is a dilemma here, which I think is an interesting dilemma. On the one hand, yes, too much seeking can get you nowhere, it appears. On the other hand, once you find something that works, It's no good just saying I found it and then thinking blah, or bell will start ringing and everything is over. That is when it seems the hard work begins, and you make the commitment to not get knocked off and you stay with it.
And I think as well, people tend to look outwards for it, and that's what I think the want and need makes you look outwards. And when you actually stop wanting and needing, you look inwards. That's where the answers are found. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's when the way our stories sound, perhaps there is sort of contradictions in it, but there really isn't. In a sense, I was in a swing, trying to get somewhere. He went on a swing, trying to disprove it. he was pushing the swing on one end, and I was pushing it in the other end. And something within both of us, something within both of us, recognized that space where in the middle swing, where she stops for a moment, and something inside your heart and perhaps my heart is, oh, what's that?
Yeah.
So, and once the recognition happens, we have to stay with it. Yes, there's an inner motivation to stay with it and work with it. It's not very hard, actually.
Well, for a lot of people it is, because they have all the demands of their life, especially younger people with family, young kids and everything else. And it is hard because they've got to earn a living and look after children, and there's all the pressures of society which expects you to do certain things. And what you're doing is the journey within is very much against the way society is going. So it can be hard.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it is... I'd like you to both talk more about this. I think when we had dinner last night, we all agreed that this is a disease of our modern time, is the addiction to thoughts and to this out there to try and find happiness and freedom. But it's this constant bombardment, and now you see one of my pet hates is in London, the streets, people walk down with their mobile phones on Facebook, whatever they're doing on there. It's like, hardly anyone is walking around just feeling their feet on the ground and feeling the wind in maybe Oxford Street, but there's still a bit of wind there sometimes. Everyone's bombarding themselves in their minds, and it seems that you two guys, in very different ways, found a way to stay with what was happening in here and just observe.
Yeah, my wife has got a fantastic phrase for that, and she calls it mind masturbation. That's especially when you see people on their phones and things like that, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're just feeding their egos and their minds with more and more information. And again, I think from both experiences, I would have to say that all of those layers that you put on, all of that information you put on, at some point you need to let go of that. And of course, the more you put on, the more there is to let go of. So the way society's going, you tend to assume that with technology and phones that they'd be putting more layers on, it would be more difficult to let go of. And yet, of course, we're led to believe that more and more people are waking up. So there's a contradiction there, I think.
There's actually both happening at the same time, in my opinion. And of course, we have the problems, and we are used to resolving our problems with more information, more concepts, more templates. And then we have the computers and the iPhones, etc. And then young people don't even talk to each other actually that much now. They just talk to each other like this. And there is a problem, and there is always a solution, and especially in high tech. There is some problems, let's bring in another application. Now let's bring in Windows 10 operating system that will resolve the problem of Windows 8. So everyone has a problem thinking, okay, the Windows 10 will actually resolve my problem. So when that resolves the problem, there will be another application, and the mind tends to work the same way. Oh, okay, that will be okay. It's what we don't realize is that we have this wonderful hardware, and we have this superb operating system, Windows 10 and better. Yet we're operating it like a MS-DOS, in the early 80s or something, We had to look up what code to type in and stuff like that before Windows. And so, the actual solution is to activate the Windows 10 within yourself. The hardware is not going to give it to us. More information is not going to give it to us. We have, God knows, we have plenty. But the most updated operating system could be touched and activated very easily. So just imagine working with the most updated operating system. Plus it's calm, plus there is like a million benefits that we can't describe. So what we're talking about is extremely functional. It'll resolve the problems quicker, more efficiently, and you won't even have to buy the next operating system because it's already there.
It's preloaded, but we don't realize it's preloaded.
That's right.
It's all part of the deal.
Yeah. It was included.
Yeah.
But it's amazing.
Free.
It's amazing how society are looking, and I've been guilty of this as well. Is you're always looking outwards for the next gadget, the next phone, the big house, the big car, and you always think that next thing is what's going to bring you happiness, and no one seems to be looking that happiness is actually inside. You're looking in the wrong direction. It's on the inside. But it's how do you get that across to, especially the younger generation, how do you get that across to people that live in a material world with the next gadget and the next car? And, I don't know, maybe that we've got a business proposition here for enlightenment, the app.
Well, I've been...
I'm sure someone's done it.
Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. So
yeah, in spite of all the rumors out there that it's not possible, it's just somewhere there for somebody, for some mysterious person, I'm always coming from the perspective that yes, it's possible. And if someone has a spark in their heart, if someone says, okay, I'm willing, I am actually willing, really, it's actually possible to experience it and, quote unquote, prolong the experience long enough until the person can practice that himself or herself. And by practice, I don't mean the normal practice. And then the being will recognize itself. So where I'm coming from is from that yes, it's possible. And no, you don't have to go through all these terrible things like I did. You can actually very easily activate that superb operating system. And your life can be better without buying another computer, another iPhone. So it's learnable. I'm coming from the perspective that it's learnable. I have had quite a few people actually try it, learn it. If they can overcome the big obstacles within themselves, which is, oh, it's too simple, I'm not going to bother. Oh, it's just like meditation. If they can overcome those few obstacles in advance, and they're actually willing to just be there, it's not even that hard. I couldn't say that 10, 20 years ago. 10, 20 years ago, it was much harder.
So would you say awakening is a learned behaviour, something that can be learned?
I would say yes, and I'm saying it's a learned behaviour it's a learned behaviour under a different context, on the top of a different context. Once there is this contextual shift, then there's a learned behaviour. So it's like learning how to swim differently. You have to go into the water.
Yeah.
So first we go into the water, there's a contextual shift, and now let's get a habit going.
Okay, guys, we need to finish, I think. Thank you, both of you.
Thank you.
I'll do a quick plug for... See, if you had a book, I could give it a plug now.
Thank you.
Gabo, but you haven't got one. Not yet, anyway.
I will write
Enlightenment, The Keys to Consciousness, experienced and written by Martin Wilson. Thank you again. Thank you for watching Conscious TV, and I'm sure we'll see you again soon. Goodbye.